So, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, good morning to everyone. Let me very warmly welcome you in the name of the Hungarian National Museum here in the ceremonial hall of the National Museum. My name is Gábor Tomka, Deputy of the General Director of the Museum. So the recent ICOM definition of museums still contains the classic definition in which one of the main aims of the museums is the preservation of the artifacts and other parts of the cultural heritage. In general, museums and other cultural institutions should provide the full protection of the cultural property entrusted to them, considering both conservation and safety. Natural forces and human activity both can be sources of significant damage of the collections. Slow but constant degradation caused by light, heat or other types of radiation, chemical pollution or not proper conditions of humidity can be slowed down by appropriate measures of protection. Minimizing the possibility of the disasters caused by earthquake, flooding, fire requires a constant effort and a careful foresight. I would like to remind you that the plans of this very building were redesigned almost 200 years ago after the catastrophic flooding of Pest in 1838. The first floor became higher to withstand the possible next high water of the Danube. Humans endangered the precious artifacts too. Removing an archaeological artifact from its original deposit, exposing artifacts on exhibitions, or just visiting a cave with a stable climate can do significant harm to the objects. However, the biggest threats are crisis situations, primarily during armed conflicts, and types of abuse like theft, illegal excavations, and illicit trafficking of artifacts. These have become profitable branches of international organized crime and sources of money for terrorist organizations. In these cases, cultural institutions can no longer perform their tasks alone. In such cases, they might need additional state and even international help. The importance of this issue is shown by the fact that a few days ago, the Hungarian press again reported that the police had searched the homes of alleged illegal coin collectors or even treasure hunters. As no institution or even sector can handle these situations on its own, only a joint response based on interdisciplinary cooperation can work. That is why we choose to launch an interdisciplinary dialogue almost a year ago. We are extremely grateful for Dr. Gergely Deli, Rector of the Ludovika University of Public Service, and his colleagues, who immediately assured us of their support from our very first discussion of the topic. Therefore, they are co-organizers of this conference and that held back in March, which I would like to thank once more. Thank you very much. The Agency for the Protection of National Cultural Heritage, NKÖV Nonprofit Kft, with whom we work together for a long time as they provide armed guards for our museum, also joined this important task right from the beginning. Now we are very proud to have even more partners like the Hungary Helps Agency, the Hungarian Law Enforcement Society, the Pázmány Péter Katolikus University, the Budapesti University of Technology and Economics, and the AURORA project, the Horizon Europe project. The organizers of the conference were Dr. Luisa Varga, head of the department, and Colonel Dr. Sándor Kovács, University of Public Service, whose work was strongly supported by Annette Vágvölgyi and Anna Váradi from the Hungarian National Museum. Very big thanks for them. And I'm especially glad and happy to see here Luisa, who just recovered from an illness, and very happy to be able to join us. We are very grateful for every presenter and guest who accepted our invitation to join this dialogue and share their good practices and important knowledge with us. During the upcoming 2 days, we will discuss such questions as how to safeguard cultural heritage during or after armed conflicts, natural and human-made disasters, how to prevent illicit excavations, or how we can fight the illicit trafficking of cultural property. We are very glad that so many people are interested in this topic and are here amongst the audience, so let's find the answers together. Thank you very much.
I would like to extend a warm welcome to the Director General, the Director, the Police Major General, and all the distinguished guests who grace this event with their presence. Honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, 8 months ago, the Hungarian National Museum and the Ludovika University of Public Service held our first joint conference on the protection of cultural heritage in crisis situations. It was clear from the very outset that the scale, complexity, and the depth of this topic would mean that from time to time, the professionals involved would need to share their knowledge and experience. It also became clear that this topic requires an international perspective, since there is perhaps not a single nation that has not been affected in some way by the issue mentioned in the conference title. The March conference thoroughly explored the question of what actually constitutes a crisis situation: armed conflicts, natural disasters, the energy crisis, green activism, illegal excavations, and illicit trafficking of artifacts all threaten our cultural heritage. My use of the declarative mood is not accidental. Unfortunately, the world has not become a safer place in recent months. There is still a war going on in our neighborhood, and the security political situation in the Middle East has not yet been resolved. As director of the Ludovika University of Public Service, I consider the protection of the cultural heritage of Hungary and the other nations of the world to be of particular importance. Our university is the most important educational and scientific institution for the Hungarian civil service, and heir to the Ludovika Academy. With a centuries-long tradition, Ludovika remains a living example of the importance and nobility of preserving and passing on our cultural heritage to future generations. In service of the nation is the motto of our university. A nation, however, does not only require physical defense and service. The preservation of its traditions and the nurturing of its culture are equally as important. Cultural heritage is not just a memory of the past, it is an expression of a nation's belonging, a resource in meeting the challenges of the present, and a guide with which to map out the future. You are gathered here today in the magnificent ceremonial hall of the Hungarian National Museum that was designed by Mihály Polák, in a building and an institution that has been collecting, organizing, and exhibiting the most important artifacts of Hungarian history for more than 200 years. But if you step beyond the gates of the Hungarian National Museum and visit any other museum, be it in the capital or the provinces, you are certain to discover wonders there too. And if we walk among the awe-inspiring buildings of Hero Square, Eger Castle, the Ludovika or Pannonhalma Bay, we can feel our history in our bones. Taken together, these things comprise the smaller and larger elements that show us that Hungarians of today, where our ancestors came from, what they created, what difficulties they overcome, and how far they have come in the past 1,100 years here in the heart of Europe. Without these artifacts and the knowledge that derives from them, would we even have an identity, a culture to build on? It is my view, in the light of all of this, that the mere thought of the treasures or built heritage kept in museums being damaged or destroyed is chilling. We know that such damage is irreparable and that these are not values that can be expressed in monetary terms. We all have a common task and responsibility in ensuring the preservation of our country's cultural values and traditions during generational changes. It is therefore both an honor and a pleasure that the joint work that began at last year's conference will continue. The question is sometimes raised of what the tangible results of a conference might be. If you look at the tight but very full program set for the next 2 days, in this case the answer is right there before you. During the conference, experts in the field of cultural heritage and its protection will share their experience, ideas, and the threats the future holds. We know that conferences can also act as a kind of agora. In addition to the roundtable discussions and the debates that follow the presentations, the coffee breaks will provide the perfect opportunity to strengthen personal contacts and to continue professional discourses in a more informal atmosphere. These discussions are particularly important as the protection of cultural heritage is a complex challenge. Archaeologists and museologists have to work alongside soldiers, police officers, and firefighters. Apart from the natural disasters, against which we are perhaps the most powerless, it's mainly people themselves who threaten our cultural heritage. Think of illegal excavations or the many wars raging around the world. There can be no doubt that those who steal, smuggle, or sell works of art on the black market are criminals, nor indeed are those who buy such artworks less so. Detecting and apprehending them is a task for law enforcement agencies. The effectiveness of whose endeavors must be facilitated by highly trained museologists, art historians, and archaeologists. In war zones, it's particularly important that soldiers and their commanders are aware of the cultural heritage and values of the given area they are operating in. It's easy to see that their work could not be imagined without the help of museologists, art historians, and archaeologists. With all this in mind, I wish everyone participating in today's meeting a valuable, meaningful, and constructive exchange of views on what is our common cause. Thank you for your kind attention.
Mr. Deputy Director, Mr. Rector, and gentlemen generals, dear colleagues and guests. Warmly welcome all of you to today's international conference titled Cultural Property Protection. Our company ensures that armed security protection of a number of Hungary's major museums 24 hours a day, every day of the year. As a partner of the Hungarian National Museum and the National University of Public Service, we supported the realization of this event. This represents both a great privilege and a professional duty for us. It is a professional duty, for we live in an era when the task of safeguarding or establishing security has become a central issue, not only in public policy thinking, but also in people's everyday lives. For decades, it seems to be self-evident for Europeans that security was guaranteed permanent and stable element of their lives, whether it was the security of supply, security of existence, or military security. Talking about the latter, the continent once again faces major geopolitical risks, following the breakdown of the bipolar world order and more peaceful period after the Yugoslav wars. Recent events, in particular the pandemic, the Russian-Ukrainian war with its economic consequences, or the Middle East crisis, all highlight how fragile the environment once believed to be stable can be in reality. More awareness is required, a different way of thinking, where the issue of security must have higher priority in both individual and social decision-making. Dear ladies and gentlemen, the protection of our culture, keeping the national values safe, and the issue of museum security are no exception. We must strengthen the personal and technical capacities that serve the protection of these assets in the present situation. It has become necessary to redefine our professional principles and adapt them to higher level of security risk. We must assess the available resources and the necessary expenses, and we must work together to ensure that cultural assets are as safe as possible. This is why I welcome this initiation of this conference. It also demonstrates that common reflection and the exchange of experiences are essential. During the next 2 days, the actors involved in museum security will have the opportunity to discuss international experiences and best practices. Customizing them and translating them into everyday life can seriously contribute to creating a model that can respond successfully to various security challenges. This is in the vital interest of every actor. I'm convinced that this international conference will contribute in achieving a higher level of protection of the cultural heritage, something that our company strives for every day. I'm grateful that so many people are interested in this topic, and I would like to thank you all for honoring us with your presence today. I wish you fruitful deliberation during the conference.